Good evening, and thank you for joining me once again for our Sunday spooky story time here at Seaside Shadows. One of the best parts about doing these live videos for me personally is the amount that we've been able to dive into local and some might even say personal lore. I am really thankful for the fact that I get to discover and dive into the tales of the town that I live in and the area around it. Now, I've told so far on these tales one story about a human spirit of vengeance, and another I've told about a legend of what happens when you anger a god. But I'll be honest, this particular story was one that I had known nothing about. It was actually one that I had briefly heard, you hear things, but no one had ever delved into this for me. So for me, this was my first opportunity here to really find out about a local legend and then just dive into it. And I gotta tell you, the Black Fox of Salmon River is a spooky, spooky legend indeed. Now, this is another legend that is so local. If you were to go 4 miles through these woods right here, you would eventually reach the Salmon River. That's how close we are. I drive by it pretty much daily, but I had never known there to be something like this supposedly haunting or around the Salmon River. Now, it dates back to even the natives before any colonists or settlers of the European descent had arrived here in the region. The region was so lush and fertile that it was thought to be an Eden on Earth, like I touched about a little bit in my story about the Lake Poketipog and the princess story. It drove abundance of life to this valley, and it really culminated around the Salmon River. And at that point, they still called it the Salmon Brook. They had their own native word for it, but it is something that it's very difficult to pronounce. And so they had settled in this area specifically for the quality of the both river salmon that ran up the Salmon Brook, but also the wildlife around the area. But there was one wildlife that they feared. Above the dangers of bears and cougars and things of that nature were the black foxes. Now, it was said by natives that these were spirits or portents or even gods. When the colonists had first arrived here, they knew of black foxes. They had all but wiped out their own black fox population in England. And so, to come over and find black foxes, they were not utterly surprised, but still wary. They had wiped out their own population. This was a new population. Would they do the same? The natives, they warned the settlers. They had a word for these manitutos, that is, gods, spirits, or divine powers. In fact, the founder of Rhode Island, Roger Williams, in 1693 wrote, quote, "The Indians say they have black foxes, which they have often seen, but never could take any of them. They say they are manitutos, gods, spirits, or divine powers, as they say everything which they cannot comprehend. Now, the fox is, by and large, known to have a very frightening, almost human-like howl, as if their calls sound like a human crying out in the forest. No doubt it has led more than one person to go and investigate. The Europeans had had their own myth as well, dealing with creatures that were of dark color and portents of ill omen. That is the black dog. Now, the black dog was said to be seen when death would come to someone in your family or someone around you, or even yourself. Perhaps when they originally got here, these European settlers equated that black fox with that black dog. Did they indeed think that the black foxes were omens, signs of death? If they had taken the words of the natives, they would have. Excuse me as I relight my fire. Can't have a proper ghost story without some form of fire. And so, when the colonists approached the natives and asked them about these magical, mystical, spiritual black foxes, they told them that this was an evil spirit, one that could not be caught. And if you had happened upon the black fox and you yourself had seen it, well, it was already too late for you. It said that seeing the black fox would give you a compulsion to fire at it with your musket, with your bow, with whatever you had on hand. And though you would strike true, the projectile would simply go through the creature. The natives warned further. You would not stop at this. The black fox would taunt you. It would laugh at you, that sickening, grotesque howl, but once. And that once would be enough. You would try again. Despite yourself, you would try again, and again, and again. Each projectile that you launched at the black fox, every single time you would hit it and strike it true, and think that you had your quarry. But no. No, the black fox would continue on, that laughing howl again, and you would be stuck chasing it. The lucky would be able to break out of its spell. They would somehow get away from the black fox to tell the tale of chasing it over and over and over, each time thinking that they got it, but knowing deep in their souls that they were doing an empty task that they would continue forever. Those that were not so lucky as to escape would never be found, and their fates would never be known. Thus was the warning given by the natives. But we do not always heed warnings, do we? Even when they are of the best intent, structurally sound, and you know beyond everything that you should heed those warnings. Sometimes the brave and the bold, they think that they can best such creatures. And so it was to two hunters locally. It is in one of the most well-known poems of the black fox. The two go after the fox. They hunt it again and again, thinking for sure that the bullets from their muskets must be able to catch the spirit, or the creature as they think it. Every single shot fired would drive them further and further into a madness. They are considered two of the lucky few, however, because their bodies were found. Their end fates were known. Are their spirits still chasing the black fox? That we cannot say. But rumor has it, based off of the poem, that every single winter, here I am in the wilderness with creatures running around, every single winter you can see the footprints of that same black fox on the graves of those two hunters. So, what is the black fox? And why is it so terrifying? Is it a spirit creature, as the natives had said? Is it a spirit of vengeance, of mischief? Perhaps it's a spirit of covetousness. Perhaps it's a symbol that you should not want too hard for something that you will never get, because it will drive you to your death in the end. Is it a mere symbol, or is it a creature itself? There's a creature calling at me from this brush pile right over here. Is it a black fox? I'm not going to go investigate. According to one of the poems, there's an answer for what the black fox is. John Greenleaf Whittier, one of the two best known poets who turned the tale to verse, said, "They say it was a fox accursed by Hobomoko's will, that it was once a mighty chief whom battle might not kill, but whom for some unknown crime was doomed to wander still." Hobomoko you might remember from my previous tale about Lake Poketipug and the princess. He was the Algonquin god of death, night, water, and shamanism. Was the black fox some form of Hobomoko's wrath? He was also a very mischievous and prank-filled god. Was the black fox merely just some sick, godly prank? Or was it, in fact, just an animal? There are rumors that 1 in every 5 young fox is born black, but they very quickly mature out of their coats and into deeper, redder colors. Perhaps the thing that they were shooting at were baby black foxes. But then why? Why every time did they hit their target did the creature laugh, run, and continue on? And why were the natives so fearful of the thing? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting the same result each time. Madness is forced insanity. Is it possible that the black fox is so terrifying a creature because it induces madness? Because you are forced to do the same thing over and over and over again until you die. Think about how many tragedies, Greek myths, Roman myths, myths of all kinds, involve hell, and involve it the idea of doing the same thing over and over and over again. Is this creature some form of hell that these hunters get trapped in? It's very interesting having a creature legend like this so local and so close by. I'm definitely intrigued and want to investigate further. The black fox is a creature unlike anything else. For what else could induce such a madness in any who would dare go after it? If you find the black fox, look away. Do not attempt to follow. Do not attempt to hunt. For if you do, it is likely that you too will be locked in the cycle of madness that repeats over and over and over again with the creature. I will leave you with this line from the book Legendary Connecticut by David E. Phillips. Covetiveness warps and sometimes even kills the human animal. I think the black fox represents that perfectly. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another edition of our Spooky Sunday Story Time here at Seaside Shadows. I am Andrew. Feel free to submit any questions that you might have on this video or any of our other videos, and tune in tomorrow for our Mystic Monday Q&As. Thank you so much once again for joining in. Many, many happy haunts, and I hope to spook you later. For Seaside Shadows, I'm Andrew Hill.